Yeah, just a quick rundown. We got a Airaid Intake. We have 19-pound Ford Explorer E code injectors. So we've got the cooling system done, factory air conditioning, it still works. I replaced the heater core. I have my wiring. If you want to know about the battery and why I'm having charging system issues, I'll leave a link in the description so you can check that out. I have the Brown Dog motor mounts. I have the custom exhaust system that runs in the back. My fuel system's all factory other than my injectors, which I showed you. My lighting, I ran that down with you. I'm gonna do while I've got the Jeep in here, doing electronic diagnostics and trying to figure out what's going on with my charging system. I figured I'd go over the engine compartment with you guys. I get a lot of questions on how I made it run as good as I do, and I tell people it's got 250,000 miles on it, and they kind of look at me with beady eyes. The internals of the engine are stock. It is a 2000, so it's a coil pack motor, OBD2. Nothing's changed in the bottom end. I've never had the valve cover off of it. I've never had any of the major components off of it. So I'm going to go through what I did do to it, because I've had several issues with it and upgraded a few components, just maintenance wise and a little upgrade here and there. So I'll go everything that I've done to it, and I'll put write-up links in the description below and links to the stuff that I've done and whatnot. Anyway, stay tuned. Thanks for being here. So I've done several upgrades to this engine since I've got it. It was pretty much bone stock out of Grandma's garage. I didn't have anything done to it. I was towing it on, well, I was using it to tow my camp trailer. Had 31-inch tires, 355 gears, which is the factory gears, and a 3-inch lift. And I came back from that trip, did the mileage, and I was at 9 miles to the gallon, and it was driving like a turd. So I decided to start doing a little bit of work to see if I get my miles per gallon back. The first things I did was change the exhaust system. So I went to a Dynamax catback system, and it lasted about 6 months before I tore it out from underneath the Jeep on a trail called Waterfall at the Tillamook State Forest. So then I kind of hodgepodged some stuff together, put another system underneath there, and did the same thing on Waterfall 2 months later, ripped it all up, and I had the exhaust pipe twist over, and the Y pipe was up against the pinion, and the pinion was rubbing a hole in the side of the Y pipe. So I ended up having to change all that and custom make an exhaust system. So I went with Performance Curve. They're a exhaust website. I have a Performance Curve catalytic converter, and then I have a Performance Curve 2.5-inch in, 2.5-inch out, welded, tubular shaped, chambered muffler. So when you look at my muffler, it looks like a typical glass pack or cherry bomb. It's a little bit shorter, but it's about that same, shape. It's that oval shape, and it's welded all the way around, and it's brown. But when you look through the tube, it doesn't go straight through the tube with the fiberglass packing. It actually does have a chamber inside of it. I needed to retain that chamber as a spark arrestor, because if you are going to be on trails in Oregon, at least, the law is that you have to have a spark arrestor on your exhaust system or on your muffler if you're an ATV. So if you straight pipe or you go to a cherry bomb or anything like that, you don't have a spark arrestor in there, and you can start fire in the forest. So I wanted to make sure that I did that. So I've got that in there. It went up and over the axle, and then was cut short just, let's see if I can show it to you. Let me grab a light real quick. I originally had it cut short of the, where's my light? Originally had it cut short of the shackle, because my shackle was rubbing. So I had it just lopped off. Let me set my light up real quick. So I had it just lopped off straight back here, but with the trailer and the flat fascia of my rear bumper, where that exhaust was, it was creating a pocket back here, and it was creating a lot of turbulence, and we were getting exhaust smell inside the cabin, even with it real close to the exit. So I went ahead and put a turn down on it and left it short of the shackle because I run boomerang shackles back here, and so it's really tight. It's really tight right there between the hitch and the shackle. So I wanted to leave it short, but I couldn't have exhaust in the cabin, so I went ahead and put a turn down on it. So there's the turn down. There's my welded muffler, and then my catalytic converter, and then up here is where I started to do some of the custom work. You can see if you look close, let's see if I can get it for you. I've got a cut there and a cut there, and then another cut over here, and then another cut over there, and then the O2 sensor, and so it's been worked on a little bit, but anyway, that's what I got underneath there for an exhaust system. The header is factory, and the downpipe is a factory downpipe. Air intake, I run an Airaid cold air intake box. This seals to the hood, and it clips into the lower portion of the factory air box. So you can leave the bottom of the air box in there. You don't have to modify anything. You put the box on top of it. I had to assemble the box and the seal. I run an oiled filter. The oiled filter will run, shoot, I'm trying to remember the percentage, but I think it's 15% more air through the oiled filter, and you don't ever have to throw this away. I did have to buy an oiler kit for it, and you have to buy the Airaid cleaning solution for it, and it's good for 50,000 miles. I'm real close to it, and I've been on dusty conditions a lot, so the bottom is a lot worse than the top is, but really it's time to clean that, so I'll be doing that here soon. But anyway, I run an Airaid intake. It's the factory tube, factory intake, factory throttle body, and I don't run a spacer or anything in there. So from the engine compartment, or from the engine block, the head, the intake, and the tube, that's all factory 2001. I still have the factory fuel rail, but I did upgrade to 19-pound Ford fuel injectors. A lot of people go to the Mustang 19-pound, and the way to tell is they're orange color. So I've got the orange ones in there now. I have the newer style plugs, so I had to get the conversion plugs, and you can get these conversion plugs on eBay and on Amazon. They're pretty cheap. Actually the kit I got was for a V8, so I had two of the extra ones. These injectors actually aren't the Mustang ones. These are Ford Explorer E code. They came out of a 4-liter, but they're 19-pound, but they're a little bit more attuned for my 4-liter than what the 5.0 is. They still have the 4 holes in them compared to the factory injectors that have a single spray hole, so you get a lot better atomization with these ones and more consistent fuel spray across the intake runner. For the 2001 and the 2000, which is what mine is, the fuel injectors are actually a little bit longer. So when I went to put the fuel rail back on, the fuel rail was actually, sitting up here, and I couldn't get the mounts on. So what I did is, if you notice what these are, those are U-bolt straps. So I took 1, 2, 3 U-bolt straps, and I used those to secure the fuel rail. And the fuel rail actually has a little additional pad on it, so I wasn't worried about metal on metal rubbing through the fuel rail with vibrations or anything like that. I did bend these to make sure that they're on the mount flush on the bottom, and then that's what holds my fuel rail in place. And I grabbed the line, as you can see it won't go nowhere. So that's how I did that. And then I ended up underneath, let's see if you can see right here. Yeah, there's the factory one. I just cut the tab off of there. So normally this would have a tab that mounts on to the intake. I cut the tabs off so it would sit down further, and then use the strap to mount on top of the fuel rail to hold the fuel rail in place. So I have 19-pound Ford Explorer E code injectors. I run the factory cooling system. If you want to know why I'm doing battery stuff, I'll put a link in the description below, and you can go check out the video on why the hell my shit's all torn apart. So Anyway, I run the factory cooling system, and I just replaced the entire cooling system here in the last 5,000 miles, I think, maybe 10,000. So it's got a new radiator, has a new fan shroud, it has a new clutch fan, it has a new E fan over here. All of those were sourced from Rock Auto. You can actually source a brand new E fan, you can get the shroud, you can get the clutch fan, you can get the radiator, you can get all that stuff from Rock Auto, and it's actually pretty decent quality stuff. I know a lot of Cherokee guys order through them, and they have a pretty good history, so just make sure that you're not buying the super cheap stuff, and the reviews are pretty reliable, so just check the reviews. It also has a brand new water pump, all new belts, new coolant. I have a new heater core in there, and I've actually done the heater core twice in this thing because of a component failure. Make sure you buy the good heater cores, don't buy a cheap heater core. I learned the hard way. Anyway, so I've done the heater core twice. I know the heater core is good. The air conditioning system's all factory. When I did the heater core, I went through and replaced all of the O-rings that are in the lines down here, and the ones that are under here, and the ones that are in here, and all the slip fittings. I put all new O-rings in, just so you know when you're looking for O-rings. If you see a black O-ring, black is for vacuum. If you see a green O-ring is for air conditioning, for Freon. And if you see a brown O-ring, brown O-rings are usually a lot fatter. Brown O-rings or tan colored O-rings, or even yellow ones sometimes, are fuel line O-rings. They're made for different materials, and if you use the wrong one on the wrong line, the material will eat the gasket, and then the gasket will fail. So just an FYI when you're looking at them, if you're wondering why they were color coded, it's greens are ACs, browns are fuels, and blacks are vacuum. So that's that. I ran the factory motor mounts forever. If you do Cherokee research, you'll find that a lot of people run aftermarket motor mounts. So I went with Brown Dog motor mounts. PORC makes some, Iron Rock makes some, Iron Man makes some. There's a few different guys out there that make motor mounts, and Rough Stuff sells a kit that you can weld together and you can put them together. These were like $99 shipped to my door, and they're freaking bulletproof, guaranteed for life, made in America. Even got a cool little America flag down here. Yeah, everybody needs an American flag on their Jeep. So yeah, I don't really like the yellow, but that's Brown Dog's thing. So I didn't know this before I got them, but they do put a lot of chassis vibration from the motor into the chassis. And as soon as I started it the first time, I was like, and then all my buddies were like, yeah, how do you like the vibration? Thanks, guys. So what I'm going to do, these are cranked down tight. What I was suggested by some of my Cherokee guys was to back them off just a little bit. I mean, these are got enough thread engagement over here on the bolt that, let's see if I can get the shadow out of the way. So these have enough engagement on the thread that you can just back that nut off a little bit, and maybe that'll loosen it up to not transfer so much vibration down through the chassis rail and into the cabin, because it's definitely substantial. Other than that, I can definitely tell that there's a lot more torque applied to the drivetrain, especially I've had a 5-speed and I've had an automatic. This one's an automatic AW4. It's got 456 gears in it and 35-inch tires, and I can definitely tell that these apply a whole bunch more torque to the drivetrain. It's a lot less. Memory died. Should have put a bigger memory card in. Anyway, back to the shop. So yeah, the motor mounts are cool. I don't mind the motor mounts. They just put a little vibration through the drivetrain, which I can get used to. So we've got the air intake, the motor mounts, the cooling system, the AC, heater core, fuel injectors. I upgraded all of my engine wiring, so most of my stuff is either 2-gauge, 4-gauge, or 6-gauge, including my grounds, my winch wiring, to my box, down to my alternator. And I have a full write-up on that on my website, and I'm also putting together a video, so I'll put links in the description below for both of those. You guys want to check those out. I also did a alternator upgrade. So from the factory, mine has a 123 amp alternator, but because I put a winch and light bars and inverter and all kinds of jazz on the inside of my Jeep, I wanted to upgrade that when it went out. So I went to, a lot of people do the ZJ, the Jeep Grand Cherokee alternator, which is a 145 amp alternator. I went with a Dodge Dakota. It is a 5.9 alternator for the 360 fuel injected motors. It's a 160 amp alternator. The only difference between them is that on the front of this one, on the pulley, our factory belts, serpentine belts for the Jeeps are a 6-rib pulley. The alternator that I installed is a 7-rib pulley. So what you want to do is you just have to set this belt to the back pulley, and then you'll have an extra little notch on the front of the pulley, and it's completely fine. It clears everything and it all lines up good. Belts don't squeak, none of that good jazz. I did have to modify the front mounting bracket, the steel mounting bracket, but I did not have to modify the engine block, and I did not have to modify the aluminum mounting bracket on the side of the alternator. If you do some research on doing an alternator swap, you'll quickly find out what I'm talking about. But anyway, check on the links that I leave below, and you guys can go right to the write-ups for that. I've got that all taken care of if you want to know how to do that. Just so you know, I run at one point I had a 1950 watt 2-ohm stable amp with 2 Rockford Fosgate HEs in a sealed box with no power cap, and running the winch, running the lights at night with the flashers, my stereo jamming, hit the winch, and I would just barely get a voltage drop. If I run the winch super hard, and part of it is because my shitty connection here, I can see it just drop a little bit. But before, where it would bink, it would flatten out, and zero check engine would, or check gauges would come on, and the Jeep would start freaking out, the stereo would shut off. That never happens anymore. So, and especially if you get a little engine RPM and get the RPMs about 2,500 RPM and hold it there in neutral, man, she squirts the power into the battery. So I got no worries on that. I got a bunch of wiring in here, and I'm gonna do a fuse block when I put the battery back in this time, because this has kind of been, it's not too messy. There's just a lot of external auxiliary wiring that I never put into a fuse block. These are all individually fused as they run into their individual systems, and I know where all of those are. They're easy to get to, but as you can see, I have 4 or 5 negative, 4 or 5 positives, and then my harness, my makeshift harness, runs along my factory harness and then goes into the cabin with the fuse box. And then I have several switches inside that run my lights. I have flashers here, I have a flat light bar there, side light bars, rear light bar, I have a rear flasher, I have rock lights on the chassis, I have fog lights on the front. These are run to a double relay, so I can run them off a switch. They're connected to my high beams, so my high beams come on, my fogs come on, and then I can also run them individually, and nothing back feeds into the switch. So that's that. So those come on when the highs come on, and then everything else is on switches inside, but they're individually fused. So there is an interior walk around video up there, and it was a really primitive video at the beginning of my video doing days, so I am going to redo that video for you. So I'll show you all the switches and all the interior shit when I do that video. Still gotta get my Christmas lights off, but yeah, that's about it for the engine. It's a factory AW4 transmission with the, I'll just run the stock, I just run the stock shifter still. Factory gauges, factory all that good jazz. I do keep OBD2 on board all the time in case I run into a check engine light. I can just pull my phone out and just whoop, grab that real quick. Yeah. There she is, guys. I'm going to do a suspension video walk around here in the near coming future. If I've got enough time, I'll do that here in the next couple of days. But anyway, I appreciate you guys being here for the video. Hope I'm doing a better job with the audio quality. I'm working on getting a better camera equipment for you guys, but for now we're just gonna have to kind of live with what we got. But anyway, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. If you could do me a huge favor, hitting the subscribe button. If you want to continue to see stuff on my Jeep or the Comanche project we got going on, I'm gonna run over a video on my camp trailer. I'm gonna do a suspension video on this. And I've got 3 or 4 projects coming through the shop. So if you want to keep updated with what I got going on, hit the bell, and that'd really help me keep the ball rolling. If you like what I got going on, hit the thumbs up. If you don't, hit the thumbs down. I appreciate you either way. So Anyway, thanks for being here. Check out the Facebook community if you guys want to join us sometime. We've got all kinds of group stuff going on. We're going to do a go-kart day here pretty soon. We're going to do a streetcar event. We're going to go snow camping. We're going to go to Natchez, Washington this summer, do a big family camp out in Natchez, Washington. We're probably going to do some autocross events. I am going to register for the driving line school for track day events as soon as that opens up. So anyway, check us out. Check out my shop page. Check out our crew community page. We've got all kinds of stuff going on. Anyway, thanks for being here. I appreciate everybody. Talk to you soon.